Good morning, Friendship United Methodist Church. I'd like to welcome you on this 10th day of September 2023. 9/11. How many of you remember 9/11? That's tomorrow. And I think it is good for us to remember the events of 9/11 or 9/11. We should never forget what took place on that day. And we should never forget the lessons learned by these events. And all across America, many people remember. But many Americans have forgotten or are not being taught about the events of 9/11. When our seemingly inviolable nation security was shattered as nearly 3,000 people from 90 countries perished from terrorist attacks upon our soil. It's good for us to remember the events of that day. We should never forget what took place on 9/11 or the Revolutionary War, the Alamo, the Civil War, and that includes the history of both the North and the South, and the many wars that have been fought by the brave men and women of this great nation. We need to focus on our history and not be concerned about removing statues or offending or excluding someone. And we should never forget the lessons learned by these events. As we reflect on 9/11, let us remember the uncertainty of life. On September the 11th, 2001, a series of 4 coordinated suicide attacks were levied against targets in New York City and the Washington, D.C. area. On that morning, 19 terrorists from the Islamic group Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 passenger jets. The hijackers intentionally crashed 2 planes into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. Both towers collapsed within 2 hours. Hijackers crashed a 3rd plane into the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia. And when passengers attempted to take control of the 4th plane, United Airlines Flight 93 crashed into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, preventing it from reaching its intended target in Washington, D.C. There were a total of 2,996 deaths that day, including the 19 hijackers, and 2,977 victims. The victims included 246 on the 4 planes, of which there were no survivors, 2,606 in New York City in the towers and on the ground, and 125 at the Pentagon. Over 3,000 children lost a parent who was killed in the attacks of 9/11. The victims of the attack on September the 11th didn't plan on dying that day. When international trade consultant Melissa Harrington Hughes left her newlywed husband Sean to go to her office in the Twin Towers, dying, friends, was the last thing on her mind. As Moises Rivas, a chef at the Windows of the World, the renowned restaurant at the top of the Twin Towers, the North Tower, left for work, he may have been thinking about the menu that he would prepare that day, or certainly not ever seeing his stepdaughter Linda or his wife again. As American Airlines Flight 77 was taking off, Barbara Orson, a Pentagon political commentator and a passenger on the ill-fated flight, may have wondered if the flight would be smooth, but she never dreamed that the flight would end in a fiery inferno as the plane crashed into the Pentagon. James 4:13 says, come now, those who say, today or tomorrow we will travel to such and such a city and spend a year there and do business and make a profit. You don't even know what tomorrow will bring, what your life will be, for you are a bit of smoke that appears for a little while and then vanishes. James 4:13 and 14. Proverbs 27:1 says, boast not of thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. Warren Wiersbe, in his discussion of redemption, asked an important question. How long will our lives be? We don't know, friends. We don't know. Nobody knows. We may have many years. We may have many days. Or we may die during the service as we're standing or sitting here. We just don't know. Man is destined to die once, and after that to face the judgment, Hebrews 9:27 says. Friends, it's an appointment, not an accident. It's an appointment, and God knows when it's going to be. We don't. God knows, okay? Remembering how uncertain and how short life is, we must make the most of the opportunities that God gives us. Ephesians 5:15 and 16 says, therefore be careful how you walk, not as unwise men, but as wise, making the most of your time, because the days are evil. Friends, we need to live in the present. There are many of us who make the mistake of spending our lives preparing to do something, but never quite doing it. We have intentions to talk to a friend about Christ, but not in this conversation. I'll do it the next time we're talking. We put it off. We intend to start tithing next week. We intend to get involved in Sunday school after the weather starts getting cooler. We intend, but we never follow through. We should be living each day as if it were our last. Remember the necessity of preparedness. The events of September the 11th not only remind us that life is uncertain and fragile, it reminds us of the necessity of preparedness in light of life's uncertainties. On Flight 93, 33-year-old flight attendant C.C. Lyles called home to answering machine, leaving a message to her husband. Please tell my children that I love them very much. I'm sorry, baby. I wish I could see your face again. Fire Captain Walter Himes on his wife's voicemail just before rolling out of Ladder Company 13, headed toward the towers. Honey, it's real bad, he said. It's real bad. I don't know if we'll make it out. I want to tell you that I love you and I love the kids. On Flight 175, Brian Sweeney called his wife, got the answer machine, and told her that they'd been hijacked. Hopefully I'll talk to you again, but if not, have a good life. I know I will see you again someday. On that day, hundreds of messages were left on answering machines and cell phones by those in the planes or on the towers, first responders on their way. Most said something like, I'm sorry, I love you. Tell the kids I love them. Wall Street Journal columnist Peggy Noonan said, life was reduced to its essentials. Time was short. People said what counted, what mattered. It's been noted that there's no record of anyone calling to say, I never liked you, I never loved you, or you hurt my feelings. No one said anything unneeded, extraneous, or small. What stood out was the confidence of Brian Sweeney saying, "I know I'll see you again someday." Amen. I know I'll see you again someday. It spoke of being prepared for life's uncertainties. Because life is so uncertain, we need to prepare for eternity. Are you preparing? Are you? In all of life's uncertainties, there is at least one certainty that you can take to the bank, friends. And that certainty is one day we're all going to find death visiting us. Friends, death is certain for all of us. Isaiah 46, verse 8 says, "All flesh is grass. The grass withers, the flower fades." Isaiah 46 and 8. The few brief moments that you live on earth, friends, will determine how you spend eternity. Did you hear that? The few brief moments you spend on earth will determine how you spend your eternity. Amos 4:12 says, "Therefore thus I will do unto thee, O Israel, and because I will do this unto thee, prepare to meet thy God, O Israel." To the believer, this means obediently living for Christ. 24/7. Obediently living for Christ 24/7, friends. Yeah. Paul expressed this when he said, "For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain." General William Nelson, a Union general during the Civil War, was consumed with the battles in Kentucky when a brawl ended up in his being shot mortally in the chest. He had faced many battles. He had won many battles. But the fatal blow came when he was relaxing with his men and a brawl broke out. As such, he was caught fully unprepared. As the men ran upstairs to help him, the general had just one phrase: "Send for a clergyman. Send for a clergy person. I wish to be baptized." He never had time as an adolescent or young man, or he never took the time, either or. He never had time as a private or as he become a general, or he never took the time. And his wound did not stop or slow down the war. Everything around him was left virtually unchanged except for his priorities. With only minutes left before he entered eternity, the one thing he cared about was preparing for eternity. He wanted to be baptized. 30 minutes later, he was dead. For those of you who have never received Christ, it means coming to Christ while you have the opportunity. If there's someone here today that hasn't received Christ, I pray that you will do so. I pray that you will do so while you can. We never know when our time here on earth will end. Friends, always remember 9/11. Always remember 9/11 and the attack on this nation. Never forget. We can forgive, but never forget. God bless.